sounds really healthy. That bearing has failed. But now I've drained the oil out of the transfer case and there's no way to put it back in except maybe through the axle hole. Look at these exhaust bolts. This one's busted right off. The head of the bolt is no longer there. That one's ready to fall off. It's only got a fraction of a piece of bolt left. This one, the same thing. Bolt's broken. That one's missing. Wow. I think these are, I wonder if these are threaded in there. Wow. Anyways, this thing needs a right side CV shaft. It's the CV shaft support bearing that's failed. I drained the oil out of the transfer case and no metal in it. But the fill plug on the side of the transfer case is way up behind this tin shield. Nearly impossible to get to, so I'll fill it through the axle hole when I change the axle shaft. That seal looks like it might be leaking a little bit, but it was definitely not low on oil and it's not a transfer case failure. So this is a CV shaft assembly out of this Dodge Journey. I could not get it separated here at the spline. I've got the new shaft over here. As you can see, it was actually cheaper from the dealer. It was like 200 bucks from the dealer. I found it online aftermarket. Now this is supposed to just pop off, but it didn't do that. So I'm hoping now that I've got the whole assembly out, I can actually get it apart. I was hitting it with the air chisel, but I couldn't get a straight punch on it, so I'm going to put it in the vise, clamp it right here, and try and drift it here to see if I can save this CV shaft, because the shaft is okay. The joint is okay. The boots are okay. If not, we'll have to put another CV shaft assembly on it. I'm also going to fill the differential while it's apart now. Let's put the light on. So you can see there's the differential there. So I'm going to fill the differential through the axle seal opening here. I'm going to put a new seal in it too. The seal was leaking because the axle shaft had actually walked out past the seal. So the actual fill plug is way up behind the catalyst, behind this metal heat shield here, so it's nearly impossible to get at. So I'm going to fill it through here, and I know the fill plug is right level with the bottom of the axle shaft, so that should be good. I'll check the capacity, make sure I put enough oil in it. So as it turns out, I cannot fill it through the axle hole because that does not go into the differential, that goes into the automatic transmission. So this seal here, I figured I could fill it in through this opening, but it doesn't go in. I put in a ½ ounce and it started running over the top. So here is where that plug is, that fill plug. I'll touch it with this screwdriver up here. It's way up there, right there. That's the fill plug. Right beside the catalytic converter, I unbolted this shield and bent it out of the way. It's like a tin heat shield. How in the heck are you supposed to get that plug out and back in? You can't see it from this side. It's way down inside here. This is what I said before. This is what happened when a mechanic sleeps with an engineer's wife. He gets his revenge. So I used my long trusty air chisel to turn the plug loose. The shoulder of the plug sticks out, and I managed to reach up there with one finger and thread it out. So now I can fill it. The challenge is going to be to put it back in after. I'm going to find I think it's a 10 mil hex. I'm going to find a 10 mil hex, maybe a long ratcheting box end to put it back in. So here's what I used to put that plug back in. I took a 10 mil Allen wrench and cut off a piece about ½ an inch long. That went into the nut or the plug, and then I used a 10 mil ratcheting box end, which is just long enough to get in there. I cut the outer circumference of that nut, like it had a flange on it with little notches in it, so I could hold it in place with this from the back and then turn the edge of it with a screwdriver to start it and thread it in. Once I got it in, I was able to ratchet it the last couple of threads and tighten it up with the open end 10 mil. It took about a pint and a half of 80-90 synthetic gear oil, and then I also replaced these exhaust bolts that were basically rusted to nothingness. I did see another concern up there. I can't see it now, but the front timing cover is getting pretty thin. It's pretty rusty and it's getting pretty thin. So that'll be another concern in the near future. It'll start leaking oil, I'm sure. But intermediate axle shaft is back in there, and axle CV shaft is in, ball joints reconnected, covers are back on. Should be good to go for another 100K.